The lower Danube lakes are a generous and amazingly beautiful gift from nature. By origin, they are the children of the powerful and strong flowing Danube River. The lower Danube lakes are unique not only for Ukraine, but also for the whole of Europe. Today, the Earth's natural resources are even more exploited, and nature itself, especially in densely populated areas, suffers from the pressure of human civilization. Increasingly, we feel the need to conserve the integrity of our planet from a multitude of reckless challenges posed by our civilization. So the elaboration and implementation of a large-scale project by the European Union TASIS program to help improve the environmental conditions of the lower Danube lakes was very timely. The 5 lower Danube lakes, Kagul, Yelp, Kugurluy, Katlabuch and Kitai, as well as their catchment area, were studied in depth for 2 years in all the seasons. The lake's waters, fish and plants were sampled for evidence of chemical and biological pollution. The soils and vegetation, social conditions and economy of the surrounding landscape were also assessed. In addition to researchers from Odessa, official organizations from Moldova and Romania participated in all aspects of the project through the lower Danube Euro region.
The main objectives of the TASIS project were to prepare an environmental management program for the lower Danube lakes, taking in account the needs for water supply, for irrigation, for human consumption and for fisheries.
Lake Katlabuch, it has the highest stocks of fish per hectare out of the 5 lakes. The most important species here is the silver carp, a tasty and nourishing fish, but it is an introduced species originating from China. In recent times, the deteriorating ecological conditions in the lower Danube lakes led to an enormous growth of algae, which the silver carp eats, and so it can find sustenance in its new home. However, a few years after they were stocked in lakes, large fish kills began in some places, causing great economic losses. This sparked off the lower Danube Lakes project aimed at environmental improvement.
Цель экспедиции, в общем-то, она входит в рамки основной задачи, которая была поставлена, в общем-то, TASIS.
The objective of this survey, organized in the framework of the TASIS project, is to carry out studies to establish the conditions for sustainable functioning of the lower Danube Lakes ecosystem. This is the global main aim, and many researchers are working to achieve it. Not only fish biologists, but also geologists, soil specialists, geochemists. A lot of efforts are devoted to this issue. The project is carried out in stages. Now we are collecting data about fish populations and their health. Biochemists like me work directly with the fish biologists to process those data. Our biochemical samples require immediate analysis, as they cannot be kept for a long time. Tissue specimens can be processed later, after more samples are collected, to make the processing of the samples in the laboratory more efficient. Different studies are being carried out: hydrology, hydrochemistry, fish diets. We are studying a wide range of possible causes for why silver carp died in the lakes. This is a very big work. Much attention is being paid to studies of the general ecological situation in the lakes. The living water resources are the indicators of life in the lakes in general. Fish are important for human consumption, and fish farms are giving us much support in our work. Every year we stock the lake with plant-eating fish: silver carp, spotted silver carp, grass carp and common carp. We are protecting the lake and fishing in it. The project paid particular attention to the flows of water from the Danube River, rainfall and evaporation into and out of the lakes to create an environmental management model. These studies, of course, involved meteorologists. To address the hydrological questions posed by the TASIS project, we needed more information. We expanded our lake observation network. 4 more sampling points were established around Lake Yelpug, in addition to this one we are at now. We also surveyed the state of lakes Yelpug and Kugurlui, using our research boat Vikhr. We combine the work for this TASIS project with our routine work. Studies of water and salt balance are important for development of a model.
The first thing is that we have established what are the main problems for the quality of the water in the lower Danube lakes. In principle, this revolves around too many salts coming into the lakes and too many nutrients. With respect to these two impacts, however, the situation is gradually getting better, largely because the irrigation systems which used to exist all around the lakes have now stopped. So the process of taking the water from the lakes and letting all the wastewater flow back in has now stopped. So in that sense, the situation is not getting any worse, and we have some possible remedies for improving the situation in future.
We are in the pumping station of the village of Krinichne, located in the middle part of Lake Yelpug. The mineral content of water here varies in different years from 0.5 to 1.5 grams per liter. This means that each liter of water used for irrigation deposits 0.5 to 1.5 grams of salt. So the soils are being salinized, leading to a decrease of soil fertility and crop yields.
We had to look not only at the water, but the situation in which the lakes were with all the surrounding land. Although the biggest impact on the lakes comes from the way the water is managed with the Danube, there are still problems in that basin area. Problems with soil erosion, problems with loss of native vegetation, problems with fauna disappearing, All of these things detract from the basic ecological sustainability of the region.
Many years ago, we established a number of soil monitoring stations in the lower Danube Lakes area. We measure 15 to 20 parameters showing the situation with our black soils, which are the most important for farming in this region. We are anxious about our black soils. Soils come from the watersheds and irrigation, as well as carbonates, mineral fertilizers, herbicides, pesticides and organic matter that have contributed to the lake's degradation. Our task in the project was to specify more precisely the geography of soils, their main characteristics and properties. Here, in this site, we are working on a soil map.
В-третьих, вот как раз вот на этом месте мы уточняем карту почв вот этого Придунайя.
The soul-inspiring landscapes of the lower Danube Lakes region are beautiful any time of year, in warm spring, in hot summer and in golden autumn time. The natural environment in this region has many unique features. Unlike the steppe area stretching to the north, for example, the soils and vegetation here were formed under the influence of the lakes, from their mists, mires and moist earth. We are on the banks of Lake Katlabuh again. A botanical survey is in progress and students have found some species of plants listed in our red book.
Вы встречали вот краснокнижные какие-то растения здесь?
The problem is that these rare red book plants are often sold in spring. They are beautiful and look like ornamental plants. The law providing punishment for damage to rare plants should be enforced. How do botanical students help to achieve the main objectives of the project? We are contributing to monitoring and to nature conservation in the region in general. Fish kills showed that lake hydrology had changed, which meant problems with organisms and plants living in the water. How the water flow is regulated, what changes happened on the banks. All that is connected with plants. We, as botanists, are considering our small but important piece of the general picture.
And a third achievement of the project, which we're very happy with, is setting up environmentally sustainable enterprises. These are 3 demonstration businesses which show how you can use the resources in an environmentally sustainable way, which would be in line with the future biosphere reserve, and at the same time have a useful economic activity. So these concern setting up a small hotel for ecotourism, setting up a business in sport fishing using the wild species, and to develop organic agriculture.
Мы стремимся к европейским стандартам и нормам.
We are aiming at European standards and norms for environmental management. And we should do this because they have more standards in Europe, more experience and a longer history of management. For example, here we have a so-called biosphere reserve, but it has only one function, the nature protection one. The mechanisms for this are prohibitions and restrictions. But elsewhere in the world, they have had the UNESCO Civile strategy since 1995, which has a different approach for biosphere reserves, known in Ukraine as reservat. There seems to be no difference for ordinary people between reserve and reservat. But a reserve has only one function, to prohibit, and a reservat has two functions, nature conservation and sustainable economic use. We have to change our legal definition of biosphere reserve to meet the European standards. We have to call it reservat and combine nature conservation with sustainable development.
We have established much better cross-border cooperation between Ukraine with Moldova and with Romania. And we have, with the local authorities, worked on a proposal for establishing a new biosphere reserve which would cover the region in all three countries. That is to say that this reserve doesn't mean total protection for the whole area, but it is a European standard for managing the land in a way which is sustainable. And we will be able to introduce, through this mechanism, some more sustainable use of the natural resources, such as the fishing, such as reeds, and bringing in more tourism for the area. Well, certainly the approach that we have taken has followed very much the guidelines established by the European Union in its Water Framework Directive. This legislation only very recently was adopted in the European Union. So the fact that we've been able to use this project to take this approach will mean that we have one of the first case studies for this kind of work. The 2 years that we've spent on the project so far have been very challenging but also very rewarding. If we started again now, of course, we would probably take one or two slightly different approaches. We would probably put some more emphasis on different types of monitoring and so on. This is what we've learnt from the project. We don't have to try and do everything. We've really narrowed down what it is that's really essential in looking at these lakes and their surrounding areas. Like everything, you can't start on a journey until you make the first step, and I think that this project achieved more than just the first step.